Greetings, BUSN1360 Software Apps for Business. Today we start our last regular chapter of Word, and I think you're going to really enjoy it because there's a lot of practical things in here that will help you with your college term papers. So this might be a really great time to explore this chapter. So let's go ahead and get started. I have already opened up my Chrome browser, logged into my IT lab, gone to course materials, and opened the folder that has our assignments. I'll remind you again that this link to the book is very readily available. I've gone ahead and opened that, and it does open in a different browser window. So if I pull that down, you can see my IT lab here in the background, and you can see my book. I'm going to expand that, but I am going to return to my IT lab. This grader is the Word Chapter 4 Mid-Level 2 Study Abroad. It says for PC and Mac, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Of course, it opens in a new tab, and you're going to want to download your files, which include the instruction file and the file that's going to begin with your last name. As a reminder, look for your last name. That's very important so that you do not submit the wrong file. My pretend student name is Betty Baker, and so you see Baker, there is the last name. And then it looks like that we have another file, just one more, and it looks like an image file. This PNG means it's an image file. I have already downloaded each one of those, and as usual, I have put them on my flash drive, just a little external flash drive, and I have created a Word 4 folder, and that's where I'm keeping all my files. So everything is organized right where I need it to be. I've gone ahead and opened those, so let's go ahead and go to that now. This is the instruction file. It went, for me, a little bit into a second page. Of course, you know how to use Word now. You can adjust those margins so that it prints on one page. That's what I did. It looks like we have 11 instructions total, so we'll do those. And I did go ahead and open the starting document. So here we are. This is what it looks like when you open it. Looks like it has some formatting. I see some red lines, and you learned about this in the simulation. It has some notes over here on the side. So you get a feel for the document. Let me start back at the top, and let me start with the first instruction. And I'm going to make this bigger so that we can read it together. As always, I have printed my instructions because it just makes it easier. Okay? All right. We've started Word. We've downloaded and opened the document, which of course begins with our last name. The grader has automatically added your last name to the beginning of the file. So the first thing we need to do, it says, is accept all formatting changes in the document. Turn on track changes so any further changes will be flagged, and then apply a heading 1 style section to headings that display in all capital letters. Now, I do want to point out one thing, and this is my second semester using this particular edition of the book and of the graders and all that. And last semester, we noticed something, and we reported it to the publisher. They did not feel it was a problem, and so as I recall, this may still be an issue. Some students, you may want to complete, 6 or 7 steps, and perhaps you submit the file to see how you're doing. And at that point, you are still tracking changes, right? So when you submit the file into the grader gets really confused because it sees all these track changes. And what it's expecting, if you look further down, I forget what step it is, step 10, one of the last things you do is accept all changes. See that here? Accept all changes to the document and turn off track changes, and that's what the grader is expecting. So just kind of be aware of that, and in fact, follow the directions. That's always the best rule. But if you find in this particular grader that you're getting a lot of strange error messages, you may want to turn it off from the beginning. In other words, my experience, which is one semester with previous with this particular book, in addition of the graders is that the track changes can confuse the automatic grading in my IT lab. So just be aware of that, and we're just going to walk through the steps and see how we do, okay? So it said accept all formatting changes in the document. Let's just start with the simple. So where is that? That sounds like it's going to be under references. Oh, under reviewing. I'm sorry, review. And we've been tracking changes. I'm sorry, let me go over here. And we're going to accept all. Now we're going to continue tracking, right? It says accept all formatting changes in the document. And then it says turn on track changes. Well, that means that they must assume that we're accept all changes and stop tracking, but that would mean that we need to go back and track changes, right? Okay, so we should be in compliance now. It says that any place we see something in all capital letters. I'll show you that too. Oftentimes when I select a single word, I double click. If I want to select a paragraph, like see this is 2 words, I triple click. And sometimes it doesn't pay attention. But if you know, let me turn on non-printing characters. If you know you are going to select an entire paragraph, move your mouse out into this margin, the left margin, and see how the mouse changes. First it's an I-beam, and now it changes into a mouse pointer. You may notice that the direction of that mouse pointer is different. Usually it points leaning to the left. Now it's pointing to the right. When I click, it selects the paragraph. So if I move down here, well, it selects the entire sentence within that paragraph. But here it's selecting everything I need. It's selecting the full paragraph. And that just makes it easy, because what we're going to do is then apply heading 1 style to section headings that display in all capital letters. So across the top here, I'm on my home tab. I see styles and I see heading 1. When I hover over it, it's giving me a preview. Make sure that you click to apply that change. I'm going to just continue through the document. I'm going to select this about Strasbourg, heading 1. Now, why is this red bar appearing? That is appearing because it's tracking our changes. That's what we asked it to do. The key here for me is not to overlook any of these titles. Now, these are not in all capital letters, so I'm not going to apply that heading to them. And that takes me to the end of my document. Let's just keep checking as we scroll back up. Okay, and you know me, as soon as I complete changes that I'm satisfied with, I like to click the Save button. And let's go back to the instructions. That completes this one. Double check. Okay, now it says apply heading style 2 to section headings that display alone on a line in title case. The first letter of each word is in there explaining is capitalized. That's title case. Format the program fees items in the included in the tuition section as a list using the solid round bullet. I think that we saw those. Those were the ones that looked like titles. I'm going to go past that for a minute. Yeah, day 1. See, this is in title case, the capital letters. We could tell they looked like headings, but we knew they weren't in all capital letters, so we did not format them as heading 1. Let's select heading 2. Oops. That gets all of those. But the next part of that step was to format the program fees items. And I think that's what included in the tuition. The program fees include all of the following. And yeah, okay, I can even see, look how it kind of highlighted that whole list. So I'm going to select, is that everything? I'm not going to select that paragraph. And if you're wondering how I did that, you know, this is that precise selecting. If you want to drag, But you notice I went too far, right? I got that paragraph. Well, remember that if you hold your Shift key down, then I can back up just a little bit, and that's what I did. It's the same as if I clicked here, held my Shift key, and clicked at the end. Okay? Using my Shift key. Alright, I have those selected. I'm going to, I think my default is the round button, but let's just make sure. They said to use the solid round bullet. So those are formatted. That looks good. Let's save. And let's go to our next instruction. Step 4. Type the following reply to the first comment in the document. You will insert the cover page and TOC table of contents in a later step. So we're going to insert this comment. I have changed this heading to heading 1, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's start with that. Type the following reply to the first comment in the document. Let's go up here. Here's a comment, and when I just move my mouse over it, I'm going to click reply, and I'm going to go ahead and type double check your spelling just to make sure, because it will mark off. Now this was only part of the instruction. I am going to save, but let's make sure that we complete the entire instruction. It did say to include the period at the end of the sentence. Did we do that? Yes. Okay, type the following reply to the third comment about formatting the items as solid round bullet list. Okay. Let's go down to where we did that. Here's the third comment. Format these as bullet items. We're going to click reply and type, I have formatted these items as bulleted list. Save. I'm going to return to my instructions. I think I've completed step 4. Let's continue to step 5. It says change the citation style to APA 6th edition. And you may recall this is the type of formatting style that's very commonly used in business. Hopefully you have observed that if your English paper uses MLA, which is common for English papers, that Word can do that as well. So very powerful. Gives us some more steps. Insert a footnote. Should we do this one step at a time? Insert a footnote on page 1 at the end of the first sentence in the paragraph, which ends in Strasbourg, France. And we're going to type all that. Okay, so let's just kind of take this in bite-sized chunks and go back to the document. And I'm just going to scroll to the top because it's kind of habit for me to do that. And under references, here's in our citations and bibliography, change to APA. And you can see there's 6th edition, right? Isn't that kind of cool? Okay, now the rest of my instructions, and this is step 5. Insert a footnote on page 1 at the end of the first sentence in the first paragraph. Make that a little bigger. Here's the first paragraph. Here's the first sentence. Oops, I need to click after the period. Okay, so Strasbourg, France, period, and there's our insertion point. Okay, so we're going to insert a footnote, and that's this big button right here. And at that point, we're going to type EU Studies Program in Strasbourg, France, period. Is that one space? http:// EU Studies Program.eu/EU Studies You may be wondering why I have not copy and pasted this, and I will tell you why. Because I am concerned that if I copy it from the instructions directly and I paste it into the footer, that some of the formatting from the instruction page will come into my document that I'm going to submit. But I was just about to say, but I must be very, very accurate, and I can see I misspelled studies already. I got some typos going on there, so let me double check. EU Studies program .eu/EU Studies web.pdf. Now, what I was going to do is going to tell you a secret, okay? So don't tell anybody. The reason that I can't copy and paste it, right, is you see all this formatting. I mean, you see all this bold, blue, all of that. Well, that's what word processors are great for. They do a fantastic job with that. But sometimes you don't want all of that. You need it to be as plain can be. In fact, you only need the letters, the characters. That's all you need. You don't need margins. You don't need the font that this is in. You don't want any of that to transfer. And what you need in that case is what's called a text editor. And you will hear people refer to this as, you need this in plain text. And that means you've got to somehow remove all that formatting. And you may mistakenly think that something like this, insert a foot, that's plain. That's not plain. It's a certain font. It's a certain font size. It's within a table. There's margins. You've got to use, in this particular case, a plain text editor. Now, I'm telling you a secret, and here's the secret. All Windows computers, now I'm sure Mac has its own form of a text editor. You might try WordPad, but you do need to be careful with that. But I'm sure you have a text editor. What I'm saying is that in a Windows computer, they come pre-installed with a text editor called Notepad. And it's great for stuff like this. Now, you can just type it, but I'm showing you a little trick. If I go down here to type here to search, I'm going to type Notepad. And do you see how it found it? And then I'm just going to click it to open it. So here's Notepad. And Notepad is plain. You would never type a term paper in Notepad. It would never meet your needs. But it will strip all this formatting. So here's how you use it. I'm going to copy. I'm going to select this. This is exactly what needs to be typed. Remember, I'm going to right click, which always produces a menu. Always. It produces a menu of what I right click upon. So now that I've selected it, don't, shoot that mouse to the side. Keep it on top. Right click and copy. Go to Notepad. This is my Notepad window. And I'm going to right click and paste. Do you see how plain it is? And I mean, these letters don't look like anything else up here. This is as plain and stripped of all special formatting as it can be, and that's exactly what you want. So now don't just go paste again. You must copy this. So make sure you select, right click, make sure you copy what is now plain, right? Now you can return to that document that you were working on, and without fear, see how I'm selecting that? And I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste. There it is right there, paste. And that way I know it's typed exactly the way the instructions want it. I know there's no errors. Okay? Little trick for you. If you just want to type it in, just type it in. But that is really a handy piece of knowledge there. Done yet? It says change the number format for footnotes to ABC in the footnotes dialog box. Right now it has a little 1. It says make sure to click apply and not insert, and then locate the endnote at the end of the document and convert it to a footnote. So first we need to change the format for footnotes. So let's do that. So I'm in my document. I'm going to click in the footnote, and I'm going to look up here at Footnotes, and notice I have some extra options. And here it says Footnotes, and number formatting is currently 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to change that to ABC. And it said make sure to click Apply, not Insert. And if you can see, that now has a little A. The next thing they told us to do is to go to the very end of the document. And of course this is the difference, right? You have end notes, which are by definition at the end, and sometimes they're problematic because people say, oh, I see a little footnote, I see a little number that indicates that there's a reference here, a note, and they start looking for it. Oh, it must be at the end, and you have to keep turning the document. So sometimes it's nice to have footnotes, but if those footnotes are too big or there are too many of them, then you just simply have to put them at the end. Okay, so here we have an end note, but we don't want that. We want to convert it. So I'm going to click inside this end note, and once again I'm going to come up to Footnotes, and it says that this is an end note at the end of the document, and we're going to, you see, convert. What do I want to convert it to? I want to convert all footnotes to endnotes. No, I want to convert all endnotes to footnotes. Okay. Very good. Okay, I'm going to close this dialog box, and do you see it? There it is, and it has B now, because remember we already had A, so this is B. Oh, there it is right there. Do you see it? And it's pointing me to that. Okay, we've done some good work. Let's save, and let's return to our instructions. So that completed step 5. On to step 6. It says create a footer for the document consisting of the title Study Abroad, followed by a space and a page number using the plain number style. Now, special note for Mac users, it says to insert the default page number. So in other words, instead of plain, you will see default page number. Left align the footer in the footer area. Do not display the footer on the first page. Let's make sure that we do the left align at the end, and let's go back to our document. And really go, I guess, to this first page, and I want to remind you again to turn on your rulers if they're not already on. If they're not on, recall that you go to View, and well, it looks like because we're in this mode they should be on by default, because in this show under View, ruler, and so you see that would be checked to make sure that your rulers are displayed. Now when I see my ruler go from white to gray, it means that this gray area corresponds to a part of the document that is the footer. This is my preferred way of accessing the footer, in the same way the header, if we were on this page, you see how the gray part of the ruler, I could access the header. It's just a very quick way to do it. But I want to go into the footer, and you can see that that footnote is not in the footer. It's actually, it's special though still. It's nothing that was, it's not part of the main body of the document. Okay, so I'm going to double click in this area that is the footer. Here's what we need to do. First, go to page number. It's a bottom page number. They want plain number, and ultimately they've told us that this has to be left aligned. So pick the one that's aligned to the left. And I see the little number 1 there now, so that's good. That is a field. And what I did is I just arrowed over one time. I didn't select, I did not use my shift key, I just arrowed. And it's lit up in purple because it is a special field. So don't type that number 1. Okay, you have to let Word control that page numbering, because otherwise you're going to constantly be trying to type in an approximate area of the page, and it will look bad. Somebody will page through your document and it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. The page numbers will be everywhere, and then you'll get messed up and you'll have 2 page number 3s, and let Word do it. You've got to learn to use these fields. Okay, so there's the page number, but they did say that we needed to create a footer for the document consisting of the title Study Abroad. I believe we need to use the, I'm not sure it will let us type it. When they say use the consisting of the title study abroad, they tell us that they say create a footer for the document consisting of the title study abroad. They did not say type study abroad into the document. And so what that indicates to me is that, again, they are speaking the language of Word, and they want us to actually use the field name for the document title. Okay, so you might remember, and again this is from the previous chapter, that if we go to File and then we go to Info, over here in our Properties there's a title, and I'm going to name this, because it says consisting of the title study abroad. So I'm going to make sure my document has a title. I'm going to go back. First of all, I'm going to make sure I save. Okay, now my cursor is still flashing before my page number, and the page number is the field that Word inserted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Document Info, and I'm going to insert the field Document Title. Okay, so do you see that it brought in what we named it? It went ahead and brought in Study Abroad, and it's already got our page number there. Now it did say to put a space. I arrowed to the right one time. The reason I did that is to get out of the field. Now I'm going to press my space bar. So that was a little bit tricky there, but I wanted to show you each one of those parts. So your page number, and we got the page number. How did we do that? We went under Page, we went to Bottom, and we used this plain number, and that inserted the page number. Then we went to File, Info, we typed into Title Study Abroad. We saved just to make sure that the document was fully updated, and then then we make sure our cursor is to the left of the page number, and we clicked on Document Info and Document Title. Once that was inserted, it looked as if it was overlapping the page number, and it was, and our instructions tell us make sure that it's followed by a space. But if we still see title up there and we see the square around Study Abroad, that means that that space would have been inserted inside the document title. It's not what they asked for. So I arrowed one time to the right to get out of that field, and then I pressed my space bar. Now that's what I believe that they want. That's my interpretation of those instructions. Let's click on Save, and the grader will tell us if we did it wrong. Of that I am sure. Sometimes I misinterpret as well, so we are all human going through this, right? Okay, did we complete all steps of that? Everything is left aligned. Oh, now it does say do not display the footer on the first page. And we're on the first page and the footer is displaying. If I scroll down, see how here's page 2, here's page 3. That's all of our pages. But we don't want it to display on the first page. We can't delete it because that will delete it for all the pages. What we can do is come up here under Header and Footer, Different First Page. Now, here's page 1. I can see there's nothing there. Here's page 2. Here's page 3. Make sure we save. Maybe you want to close the header footer and then save. Let's return to our instructions. So we finished step 6, on to step 7. We're going to create a cover page using a banded design as the first page of the report. The report title is Study Abroad. Change the author name to Mary Hopkins, right-click the company name, Control at the bottom of the cover page, and select Remove Content Control. Let's return to our document. We want to start by being at the very, very top of the document. How do we get to the very, very top? Control Home. If Home is a secondary key on your computer, make sure you are doing Control, whatever activates that secondary key. Sometimes it's like a blue key, so Control, for example, blue key Home. On this particular computer, for me, it's just simply Control Home. I'm at the top of the document. We need to insert a cover page. Insert. Here's cover page, and it told us to use this banded style. The title is Study Abroad, and you can see that it's already there because it understands our document properties. It does, however, want us to change the author. So down here, there's company address. I think I could do this by clicking on File, going back to Info. Yeah, okay. See, I wasn't sure. I kind of thought to myself, I bet that Exploring series, I bet that's what they're using as the author, but I wasn't sure. So in this case, I'm actually using my properties to verify that that is the author. And as long as I'm doing that, why not just click there? Oops. Oh, it's not going to let me remove person. I right-clicked. Remember, right-clicking always gives you a menu. Oh, it did not like that. I'm going to type Mary Hopkins. I'm going to press Enter. There's Mary Hopkins. Now, if it's strange here, okay, good. My double check that I didn't totally blow this up was to make sure that it communicated to this cover page. Hopefully one thing that you're drawing from this is the way that those document properties can be used as fields. Why do we do that? Because if we later on change the document name or title, we don't have to find every single instance. Especially, you would not want to do a search and replace on a term like Study Abroad. You might be using that in context throughout your document. So if you called it, Study Abroad Rev 2, Revision 2, you wouldn't want that to be within the body of your document. You could just change the title property, and it should change it anywhere you've used the field. If we have an additional author, then we could add that to our document properties, and it would add it into our title page, for example. So it will help us so we don't have to locate and manually make all those changes. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to save, but we're not done yet. It says right-click company name and remove content control. Remove content control. And what else? Similarly, remove company address content control. So I'm going to right-click that, remove content control. That looks like step 7 complete. Save. Let's return to our instructions. We begin step 8, and it says insert a table of contents as the second page, selecting the automatic table 2 style. You may remember that from the simulation. And it does give a note to Mac users to insert instead the classic style table of contents. So classic if you're a Mac user, if you're a PC user, automatic table 2 style. Insert table of contents as the second page. So let's return to our document. And let's make sure, I'm going to click right here above Introduction. And if you look down in the lower left corner, this tells me that I am on page 2 of 4. So here I am, and I'm going to insert a table of contents. To do that, I'm going to go to References and Table of Contents. And as I look through, here's automatic table 2, and I inserted it. Now, the instructions did say to insert this as page 2, not at the top of page 2. And I would infer from that you would want table of contents to be its own page. And if I think about that for a minute, that's how books are, right? I mean, if you go grab one of your textbooks and you open it, it begins with a table of contents, and then the contents begin. It's not combined as one page. So I think what I'm going to do is okay, here's the table of okay. Now, I arrowed up, and that was bad. because when I move my mouse over table of contents, do you see that that purple shading includes one paragraph mark below the table of contents? So I would not want to break my page inside of that table of contents. It would cause my table of contents to be split across two pages. I don't want that. So I want to make sure that my insertion point is immediately above introduction, and you can insert a manual page break. Now you may want to go to layout and then breaks and insert a manual page break. I find it easier to do Control Enter, creates a new page. Now, do you see what they've done? Let me show you. If I go all the way back up, here's my title page. This is page 1, and this is the page that we said we wanted formatted differently. You never call your title page page 1. It's just a title page. Then as I scroll down, what was page 2, this is actually page 1 in terms of numbering, and Word numbers accordingly. Okay, do you see that? Because we said number it differently. Okay, so page 2, page 3, and we're up to, as I look in this lower corner, a 5-page document. Now, it says page 4, but remember the title page is part of our document, so keep that in mind. You're starting to see how the book is made, right? This is how people write a book. You might be getting ready to be a bestseller. Let's return to our instructions. And I believe that that completed step 8. Let's continue to step 9. Mark all occurrences of the following text for inclusion in the index. Now, what is an index? It's different from a table of contents. The index tends to be at the end of the book, and students use an index all the time because you are asked about a certain word or about a certain company, and if you flip to the back of the book says you will find references to these things on page 7 and 3, and it would be like 7 and 9 and 27 and 52, and you have probably said to yourself, gosh, I wonder who had to type all that in. No, you're from the computer generation, so you said, I wonder how computers do that, and now you're about to be able to do it. So if you type that bestseller for yourself, if you charge somebody else to type that bestseller for them, then you can use this feature of Word to find the index. Okay? So we have several words that we're going to index. You can see them here. It says, note, be sure that the instance of France, okay, see here's France, in footnote is a mark, in footnote A, is marked for the index. Cross-reference the first instance of Strasbourg, because Strasbourg, France, in the document with France. So we want those two things to make sure they're cross-referenced. And the first instance of European Union with EU. Whew. Let's see how we do with this one. Step number 9. Let me go back to the document. Before I do, I'm going to select this word. Now it has formatting, but I think Word will be okay with it. And I'm going to copy this first word just so I make sure that I have, some of these are kind of complex. I want to make sure I'm spelling everything correctly. So that's the first word. I'm going to go over here to my document. And I do want to make sure that I'm at the beginning of the body of the document. So I'm right here above introduction. I'm going to go to Home and Find, and the navigation pane opens, and I just right-clicked and pasted. So a little forethought saying I want to make sure I've copied that word, hit Enter, here it is. Now that it's found it, let me click in this word. In fact, I'm going to double-click to select it, and I'm going to right-click. Okay, I'm thinking of a different version, I think, because you used to be able to just select it. Okay, that is okay. I'm going to select that word. Maybe let me be real precise. Let me go back to References, and I'm going to mark that entry. Okay, so see how I had it selected, and then I clicked Mark Entry, and let's see, this one I do not need to cross-reference in any way. I do want to mark all of them. Mark all occurrences, yep. Okay, just wanted to make sure, and I'm going to close that dialog box. Now, see behind it, there's now some coding, and whenever we see those grace brackets, remember we saw those, fortunately or unfortunately, in Word 3 when we inserted formulas, and we saw that that told Word this is something special. This is not some misguided text that's in here. This is helping to XE cross-reference, right? The X is the cross reference to that. Okay, what else? What was another one of our words? Well, it was a two-part word. Black forest. I'm going to right-click, copy. I'm going to come back over to my document, and I just want to start at the beginning because I want to make sure I get the first occurrence, and I'm going to make sure you replace that, or delete it and paste, and let's search. Here it is. It's selected. Let's write. I'm sorry. I think I'm thinking of the older edition. I've got that selected. Mark entry. And we're not cross-referencing anything here. Okay, but I am going to mark all. And I see it added that special reference. I'm going to close. I'm sorry, which were the words? Classes. Be sure to cross-reference Strasbourg and European Union. Okay, so let's go back. And our next one was classes. Right-click, copy. Paste. Oops, it was already selected. Let me select. And I'm going to mark entry. Mark all. Close. Let me go back. European Union. Now this one we want to make sure we cross-reference with EU. So copy. I just like to go back to the top. Make sure that that is selected. And mark entry. Okay, cross-reference CE. Look good to you? Looks good to me? Okay, I am going to save because we've done a lot of work and I don't want to lose it. I'm going to go back to my instructions, and here's France. Now it does tell us cross-reference the first instance of Strasbourg in the document with France. Okay, right now, we'll get to that in a minute. Right now, let's just keep completing our task at hand. I'm going to go back, make sure I'm before introduction, put that in there, paste. And there's France, and I need to, make sure that is selected. Okay, the footnote is displaying there. I need to kind of ignore that. There's where I need to mark the entry and mark all. And perhaps while I'm here, I'm going to select Strasbourg, and they said cross-reference the first instance of Strasbourg in the document with France. So let's cross-reference. See France. Now I still am a little concerned about our European Union. If I select European Union and mark entry, yeah, I need you to do this as well. We completed the cross-reference, but if you select European Union again, we need to make sure that we're indexing it. So I couldn't get that to turn on a moment ago. So mark all. Okay, so make sure we've got that. And see how it added more references to European Union. So I'm marking European Union twice. Once I'm doing the cross-reference to EU, and that's only on the first entry. But I want to make sure that I'm capturing every place that European Union is listed in the document. So make sure that you do that. Save. Let's go back. How are we doing here? A little bit more to go. You kind of get the hang of it now though, right? And you see why I'm copying and pasting. I get all the little special symbols. There it is. Make sure it's selected. You know, the yellow highlight is one thing, but it needs to be selected. Mark all. Is this our last one? Let's go back to the top. Maybe I'd just do that because old habits die hard. I've been, using this for a long time, and Word and Excel and PowerPoint, they get smarter with each edition, and sometimes it's not smart enough to loop back around and start from the top. So if you're having success without going back to the top, that's fantastic. I just have some old habits that say I need to go back up here to the top of the document. Sure that that is actually selected, and mark entry and mark all. Okay, lots of markups in that document, but at least we don't ever have to count them and go through and try to find them, right? That's great. Let's save, go back to our instructions. Whew, did we do them all? Oh, be sure that the instance of France in the footnote is marked for index. Well, let's double check. Yep, see it? Here's our footnote. It's on page 2, and I see that, marking there, the XE France. So it's got it. That's fantastic. Back to our instructions. Look at this, moving right along. Create an index in classic format on a new page at the end of the document. Accept all changes to the document and turn off track changes. So we're going to create a classic index at the end of the document. Now, how do you get to the very end of the document? Control End. If you again have a secondary key, make sure you're pressing down, whatever that is. It didn't say to create a new page, did it? Oh, on a new page. It did create an index in classic format on a new page. So I'm going to Control End to start a new page, and you see that page break symbol there. And we're going to insert an index. So see that right here? And it wants it in the classic style. From Template Classic, there we go. And this may look a little familiar. I mean, this is sample text, right? We're not talking about Aristotle. We saw the words that we indexed. This is just a generalization to display the formatting. It looks good. And anything else? Okay. Wow, look at that. Look what you did. That's pretty cool. You see these squares, you may be wondering about those. If I turn off my characters, those squares have a very particular meaning, and they mean keep with next. So if you click, for example, and you go under paragraph, this is just a little extra information, you'll see those squares when you want to, when keep with next is formatted. I don't want to take that off because it's going to count me wrong if I do. And obviously, if we start with this letter A, we don't want A to be hanging out there by itself and then have the entry on another page. It would be difficult, it'd be confusing. So we don't want that. So keep with next is really great here. Sometimes you will see the beginning of a column and it's on one page, and then there's all this space, and then you turn the next page and you go, oh, this is a listing of names and telephone numbers, but I didn't know what it was, because you really want it to keep with next. So that's a great formatting feature to know. Now, the very last part of this step, accept all changes. Now let's go to the top. Control Home, very top. Again, force of habit just keeps me safe here, and we under review, we want to accept all changes and stop tracking, right? And turn off tracking. Very good. I do this to make sure it wants me to turn it on, which means that it's off, right? Okay. Save. How do you feel? Fingers crossed? Are we feeling good? Well, you know what the next step is. We need to close this, and let's go to the grader and choose File. What are we going to do? We're not going to just grab this Baker file and submit. Are you grabbing the file with your last name and submitting? What's wrong here? This is word 3. We're working on word 4. I cannot tell you how oftentimes that happens, where students get very upset because the grader has marked them wrong, and the problem is they're submitting the wrong file. And file management is part of the course. Again, if you're an attorney and you send the plaintiff, the defendant, whoever, the other person, the wrong document, can you imagine the ramifications? If you're an accountant and you open up Fred Jones's tax file, and you email Fred Jones's tax file to Mary Smith, that is a lot of confidential information that you would be sending to the wrong person. If you sent to client A the price quote greatly discounted that you prepared for client B, can you imagine the problems that you would have? You have to be able to organize your files and send them to the right person. So that is important. That's why we want to double check here. It's why we want to create folders where things are very well organized, and then we want to verify things like, it's the file with my last name, not the instruction file. Don't do that. And is it chapter 4? I'm working on chapter 4, so let's do that. I select it, open, upload, got our fingers crossed, success, submit. It always says pending, so I just go ahead and click on the 3 dots, view submission. 93, not 100. Let's see what our mistakes are. I may have misinterpreted some instructions, and hopefully you are better than me. Okay, it looks like I did something wrong. Type the following reply to the first column. Cover page. I have changed this heading to heading 1 and inserted a cover page. I might have mistyped something. For the comment, the text was not set to. Okay. I'm gonna say I probably mistyped something. So let's go back in. Here I'm in 4. There's my document. Let's go to that comment. Well, I thought we didn't. Do we still have our comments? Here it is. I have changed this heading to heading 1 and inserted to cover page. Now, something is wrong with that. I don't know what it is, but let me go to my instructions. And this is what I was supposed to insert, right? So what did we learn? We learned that we can select this, copy, that I can open up Notepad, which I already still have open, and that if I paste, that it removes any extraneous formatting, characters, that type of thing. Then I have to remember to copy it. And let me go back to my document, because I probably have some error in here that I just simply cannot see right now. So I selected that. I could paste over the top of it, but I want to make sure you can see this. So I've deleted whatever was there. Control V, not P, but Control V, as in victory, is paste. Okay, does that look right? Save. See, it almost looks like there's an error there. It did not tell us to resolve, did it? Might as well, while we're here, go down to this third comment. have formatted these items as a bulleted list. Okay, let's save that and see where we are. And let me go back. And you know that we always have to go back. I reopened the grader. I'm going to once again choose my file. I made that one correction. We're in Word 4, file with my last name, correct file, open, upload, success, submit. Woohoo! That was, first of all, that tip of going into Notepad. A little bit of a lifesaver for me because I'm not sure what I mistyped, but clearly I mistyped something. And I have my 100%. So some of the key takeaways from today's lesson are definitely being able to kind of copy and paste to Notepad. That's handy in so many business applications. You'll actually be amazed now that you know that tip. Another tip is to use field names like the document properties, and to take the time to go to the document properties, put in the author's name, put in the document title, and then use those fields in the document. And in that way, just like me, you can get a 100%. So I'm always glad when I can return to my beginning screen and truly say that we earned 100% the hard way, right? Thank you so much, folks. You guys are really doing great, honestly. So thank you for all that work you're doing, and we'll talk to you later.